How do you win from this position? Hello everybody and welcome to round 5 of the Bobby Fischer vs. Taimanov match. Now this game is really nothing special. I'm kind of crouching down because the webcam on my laptop is on the bottom. But I'm just presenting this position because this game is just a huge blunder for Taimanov. It's black to move and win a rook. And that's how the game ended. Let's see what happens though. So Bobby Fischer's black, and he deviates from his standard King's Indian. Knight to f6, c4, g6, knight to c3, and then d5. So Bobby Fischer played the Grunfeld as an alternate to the King's Indian defense, and he really had a lot of good games in the Grunfeld. In this position, though, he really was a master of the King's Indian defense, and he won a lot of very good games in that too, but in this game, he's really totally outplayed by Taimanov, who just basically maintains activity, control of the center, and gains an overwhelming advantage. Although, based on the computer analysis, it looks like the game is equal all the way through till the end, when Taimanov just makes a shocking blunder. Bishop to g5, knight forward, bishop back, knight takes, doubling those c-pawns, but this is really a standard line in the Grunfeld, and it's really not a drawback for white. Pawn takes, bishop up, trying to maintain that pawn. Rook attacking the b-pawn, b6, creating a weakness. Bishop develops, and then Bobby Fischer develops his bishop to h6, just maintaining as active as possible. Really no reason to bring it to bishop g7 because the dark squared pawns here are totally closed off. Knight develops, c6, potentially repairing something like b5, although that would be a weakening move. He just lets white win that pawn back, brings the bishop back to take that knight, and then instead of just taking that c-pawn, which the computer recommends, he just maintains attention, develops. Knight forward, just maintaining development, and then the knight takes the pawn, castles. So at this point, white actually has an advantage, slight advantage, just because he's more active and more developed, although black doesn't really have any weaknesses at this point either. Alright, so a4 with an idea to basically weaken the queen side and just undermine some pawns, try to create weaknesses. c5, e5, takes. And even though this pawn for white could be considered slightly weak on c3, it's really not a drawback, and it's still equal. This game is really nothing special, as I said. They're just playing, this is probably theory at the time, actually. Alright, so f6, trying to break apart that e5 strong pawn here. And this is a good idea that you can learn from in the middle game. So if you have... Alright, we've got to flip through here real quick. So if you have the two bishops, and the position is locked, the key thing you want to do is use your pawns to break open diagonals for example, if you have a dark square bishop or a light square bishop. And that's exactly what we see here. Going for a queen trade, of course he doesn't want to keep this bishop on the d file because the rook would pin it and then it would be lost, so he moves it back. Queen up, trying to just protect all the light squares, and now black has some weaknesses to exploit. Attacking the rook, trying to contest the d file, trade. So black is doing okay attacking the a4 pawn, but he does have some weaknesses, and the d file is white's now. Takes. You can see here that Taimanov didn't take, he just maintained the tension, and which basically limited the activity of the black bishops. Takes. Queen forward, and now it's dead equal at this point. although practically white has an advantage because he's much more active, but he does have some weaknesses, weak pawns here. Rook to c8, the bishop protecting that rook, as well as basically he wants to take that a4 pawn, but he needs to protect it first. Undermining the pawns, chasing the queen back, basically rearranging those bishops so they're more protective of the center E and D files. Trades, and now Bobby Fischer gives away a pawn just to consolidate his position, although he's going to win it back because he's going to be more active. Now notice he doesn't take this E3 pawn because it would open the E file and create some attacking chances for white. A very good defensive idea. Taking that A5 pawn, and now Taimanov is tempting him again to take that E pawn, although of course he doesn't want to do it because then rook to E1 wins that bishop. Queen to C6, just trying to maintain his defensive stance. And of course, Taimanov has played well at this point, but the computer is evaluating that black has an advantage because he can win the pawn. So now queen takes e4, advancing his pawn. And even though it's equal at this point, black having a slight advantage because of those pawns, Taimanov could have held for a draw quite easily. Just taking that pawn. And now the queen and rook are active. Black really doesn't have an active plan though. He's just taking pawns and it's still equal. Winning his pawn back, dead equal. And then after queen to e4, queen check, rook check. Taimanov missed a basic fork. Now he's going to win the rook, and if it comes back, Bobby Fischer just checked him. It's a very simple and basic tactic. Winning the rook, and the game is all over. A very sudden and shocking blunder from a game well played by Taimanov, but he just lost it in the end, creating a 6-0 score for Bobby Fischer. So I don't really go too in-depth into this game just because it's really nothing special. This is not a game to be proud of in history. It's just part of the 6-0 match. And actually Taimanov should have won it, or at least drew it. So I hope you enjoyed this game, and I'm reporting in from Vietnam. Hopefully the sound is good. I'm trying to get my my mic and everything set up, but I'm just getting this video out here, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.